Hey guys, this is Gaijin Hunter and welcome to episode 14 of my Let's Playthrough of Soul Sacrifice Delta. In the last episode, we just finished up the base game, which is facing off against Magusar, and we got 3 different endings, so to say. And now we're going on to the Delta content. This is like going on to like Master Rank kind of stuff, in a way, if you're coming from Monster Hunter. So in order to do this, we're going to start with the Sorcerer's Deeds. We're going to go to Grim. And there was a new one that was added called The End Begins. I know it's a little confusing because it's like in a list, but this is the one that we need to do. It's only 5-star difficulty. I think we've been doing like 8 and 9 stars, so this should be very easy, but this is more about setting up the story probably more than anything. Anyways, enough talking, let's jump in. Let's find out who this mysterious vine woman is. The End Begins, Chapter 1.
The news came suddenly. An urgent dispatch came to all of Avalon's sorcerers. Avalon's highest authority, the 13th Persepius, had been taken. He was said to know every spell and incantation devised by man since time immemorial, and was of such importance to the organization that only a handful had ever seen his face. But some unknown captor had found him and bested the heavy guard he kept, employing some kind of powerful illusionary magic. Witnesses reported a sorcerer dressed in red. Some hours after the crime, an ultimatum came from the Order of Grim. Their demand, the Ars Magica in Totalis. The tome passed on from Persepius to Persepius. The moment I heard Grim, I began to prepare for the road. My destination, the tavern where Red and I had met.
Okay, it looks like we're up against a gargoyle. The game is going to be nice and softball us because it's been a while. Not for us, but can you imagine this game came out like a year after Soul Sacrifice? So instead of just throwing them into something very hard, it's going to ease them into it. It's something that I hope that Monster Hunter would do, because like Master Rank or whatever is like pretty hardcore from the get-go. It would be nice if they put you on a few high rank hunts just to, you know, ease the wheels, grease them up, you know. We've already read the story of the gargoyle before, and Evan Vale is the story of the Elven Queen. It's the field of dandelions that no one can get in and out of. So let me make sure, who do we have? Do we have 2 allies set? Yeah, so currently we're using Sympatha and Sidra from our last episode if you watched the grind one. We've got lots of stuff, so this is going to be a very quick hunt. But because this is a gargoyle, and it is kind of fun seeing the different stuff that you can do, let me take off the claws, even though they're like insanely powerful. We'll put on a shield. It doesn't matter what kind of shield we put on. It should be enough. This is going to be an easy hunt. I'm not the type to swear fealty to any person, but the search for Persepius is not a matter of loyalty. It is said that the first Persepius was the founder of Avalon. Each descendant in turn inherited the Ars Magica. The current Persepius is the 13th of his line. Ominous numbers. Oh, did I actually not take off the Sympatha legs? It looks really funny with Sympatha legs and Sortiara top. That's not exactly fashion hunting, is it? Or what would we call it? Fashion sacrificing? Okay, let's put on some armor. We don't need to buff ourselves. This is going to be a pretty easy hunt to begin with. I'm just going to put up a shield now so we can see how fun this gets. We get the big shield because I got heat armor on. Remember, if you're using a shield of the same element, you get this huge epic shockwave attack. It's pretty sweet. Boom. I just killed everybody. Get his arms. So the idea, I think, is that you're supposed to get the down. Oops. You're supposed to get the down and then immediately go in there and hit him. You're not supposed to be, like, using the shield. But, whoosh. Get up. This gives us very easy access to the arms if we're up here. Otherwise, we have to, if you notice we're hitting the legs sometimes, it can be kind of difficult. So come on. Oh, he's going to do this to me. He's going to just start roaring. Okay, so there goes one part. What's the other part? Oh, shoot, we're going to die. That would be bad. Get out. I forgot I don't have a partner with me. That would be very unfortunate if I died. Okay, so we need his hand still? Ow. Bowling! Okay, we got the left arm. Now onto the right. The other one, screen left. He doesn't want to show it to me. Okay, we'll just have to move. So let's heal up. Let's make sure which arm we want to get, because we don't kill him yet. Upper left, okay. Oh, when he died, he was only one hit away. Oh well, we didn't get all full breaks. That's unfortunate. I'm rusty as well, even though I shouldn't be. Let's get a rancid egg. Okay, get up, you chump. Nice hair design, though. He has like a tattoo on his head. Okay, well, we got through it just fine. This is what happens when I don't down my behemoth eggs. Why do I keep saying eggs? This is what happens when I don't take the behemoth apples. I know it gives me like huge attack, but I also have to remember that Sanctuarium does not have very high attack. The only reason why I even have 134 is because I pumped some levels in magic. Like, can you imagine just having 100 attack? You might not die easily, but the hunts are going to be longer. So I should be using those apples as much as I can, because that's part of the playstyle, I think, for Sanctuarium. Okay. Get some rewards here.
Sorry, but you'll find none called Persepius here.
Semelia's tone was one of amusement as she nibbled at her apple. I was a visitor, come to see her. A rare treat for her, I'd wager. Avalon now feared a traitor. Someone inside had loose lips. If you'd had any contact with Grimm, you were a suspect. My own acquaintance with Red had me in a fine pickle. But her troubles eclipsed mine. The assassins would be coming for her soon.
Oh, are you worried for me, Spot?
Only slightly, I replied.
Slightly?
She echoed with a smile. It seemed to please her. My questions left her conflicted.
All right, just their destination.
That was more than enough. I asked if she would be safe.
Be very thankful.
Came the reply.
Then pay me back. Or it's back to my illusions with you.
Abducting the Master of Avalon. Well, that's really something. Red Hood appears to be one of those responsible for the crime. But then, why did she speak out so freely? It doesn't add up. Perhaps she's plotting something. There they were, a procession of sorcerers surrounding a carriage. From their garb, they clearly weren't Avalon. Those were grim men. Persepius must be inside the coach. It was exactly as Semelia had said. I chose to observe from afar for now. On the road ahead was a monster. The sorcerer that stepped from the carriage bore an unmistakable air. I knew from Red's description this was Terwin, Hierarch of the Order of Grimm.
You there, in the bushes.
She extended a beckoning hand in my direction.
Surely just watching is no fun.
Had she seen? But how? When? I'd been meticulous in concealing myself at a blind angle. Too late to ponder it now, I left cover and approached her.
Da-da-da-da. Terwin. Okay, so we get to meet the leader of Grimm. And we're going up against Snow White. We've also read the story first. This is kind of nice. We don't have to worry about reading through too many monster stories this episode, at least to start with. So we do not need a shield for this one. We're just going to rip her to shreds, I think. So let's read about Noah's Desert, because we haven't done that yet. This is next to Lake Andromeda, which we did read about. Aquarius and Babylon, which we have not. Over half the kingdom was barren sand. It was said that none who entered this forbidding desert would emerge alive. An ancient war fought with terrible sorcery had brought the once fertile land to ruin, or so the legends claim. The desert had become an ungovernable wasteland beyond the reach of any king's law. And yet there was one man who saw opportunity in this. He was a merchant, and he traveled with a single companion, his loyal camel. He was poor, and could hope for little more than to survive the next day. But one day this merchant made a bold decision. He vowed that he would cross the desert, establish a trade route with the lands that lay beyond it, and grow rich. No hardship, though, prepares a man for such a journey. On he walked across the dunes. 1 week, 2. First his stores of food ran out, then his water. He could go no further. The man and his camel were lost, marooned amid a sea of sand. Hope dried up under the desert sun, and the reaper's footsteps drew close. Yet it was a strange chalice, and not a pale rider that appeared before him. It spoke in a voice that echoed from within his head. If you would have your wishes granted, offer up a fitting sacrifice. There was no room for doubt, no time for hesitation. The only thing he had to offer was his faithful camel. Even now, the camel stood behind the man, using its shadow to shield its master from the brunt of the sun's rays. A kaleidoscope of memories flashed through the man's eyes. He drew a deep breath. He had his answer. No. His other half had served him too loyally to meet such an end. If they die here, they die together. It happened to be the moment he reached his decision. A blinding white light enveloped the gentle beast beside him. The animal was claimed as a sacrifice, though not by the order of its master. It was the camel itself, determined to save its master at any cost. Such was the strength of the bond between them. The camel grew in size, taking on a form of a galleon. Stricken with grief at the loss of his companion, the man crawled aboard the vessel with its last of its strength. There, sleep claimed him. He awoke to the sights and sounds of a foreign city. The ship born of the camel's sacrifice had seen its master across the sand safely. As the only man who managed that feat, the local merchants were all too eager to fill his ship with the wares for sale abroad. Upon his return home, he was met with a plethora of trade propositions. He was inundated with a flood of coins that promised to wash away every trace of his impoverished past. Even his memory of those meager days grew dilute. Over time, the years he spent with the camel were forgotten. The man did not know the truth. How could he even know now, in dramatically altered form, that the camel watched over him still? The camel ship sailed ever on. Fatigue was nothing compared to the beast's desire to please its master. But even that simple, heartfelt wish was lost upon the now wealthy man. Love of coin saw the merchant accept any work he could, and the hold of his ship was stacked higher and higher with freight. Then one day, that ambition reached its limit. And so, midway across the desert of death, the camel ship ran aground. The force of it sent the captain and cargo alike flying from the deck. But even still, its hulking frame worn and broken, the camel thought only of the man. Slowly, the ship began to list. 1 degree, then another, and then it stopped. Its shadow now enveloped the merchant's battered body, shielding him from the sun. The camel ship would never move again. In that moment, the man knew. Despite its appearance, the ship he'd sailed so heedlessly had been his faithful partner this whole time. Regret flowed through his every broken bone, and he came to a silent final stop. One corner of such a vast desert looks much like the same as any other, yet this was a place the two of them had seen before. The circle was complete. They had found the very spot where a poor merchant and his trusty camel had once been lost, marooned amid a sea of sand. So that's sad. His camel saved him so he can get through the desert, and he didn't even realize that the ship that appeared was his camel. And then he got greedy. What an idiot. She spoke as if she knew what was to come. Terrawin pointed a finger at the monster and urged us to fight together. When men turn into monsters, the chalice plays a role. It is said that it was sent to this world by the druid god who rules over desire. For those who see it, does the chalice represent hope? So I think Terrawin's going to be joining me on this hunt against Snow White. Give me a chance to show off my skills to her. Now you can see the camel in the far background, the camel ship.
I know who you are.
I mean, I love her outfit, but the ivy greenery stuff has to go. If you ask me. Okay, let's get this. We've already seen a good amount of Snow White, so let's put her out of her misery rather fast. Here, Terrawin, so you don't kill me. Here's a buff. Should make her happy, I hope. Da, da, da. I don't need armor. Not for this one. Rise from the grave. Down a seed. Let's go get ourselves some Snow White. Get up nice and high where they can't hit me and I can hit the crisp part. Perfect. That's gotta hurt. So what else do we have to break on her? Back of her hair? Okay, well let me get behind her then. At least I thought that's what I was supposed to break.
Do not disappoint me.
Let me try a charge spell and see if that works. Boom. It killed her. Did we break apart though? I doubt it. Yeah, just counter achieved. Oh well, you can't have them all, can you? What does she look like? Can't tell. Camera's not playing nice enough to me to tell. It's the sand that's flowing through. It really messes with your momentum as you're going up against it. You see here? You actually slow down as you go up against the flow. Goodbye, doppelganger Snow White. May you find peace in the waking world. The Darling Sigil allows us. It's the arm of Sleeping Beauty. Nice. Whoa, that is a funky, like, Fifth Element costume. What is that? Like candy cone, like on the chest? Like that is so wow. And the face is like all like Dune-ish. Oh, that is weird. And Terrawin. Well, she doesn't even look that weird in comparison now. She looks kind of normal. Weird. It's definitely an interesting design choice for everything in this game.
Red Hood. She told me of you.
The lack of suspicion she regarded me with spoke volumes. Did she take me for an ally? Or was it the simple confidence that she could crush me at a moment's notice? Or was she trying to recruit me for the Order? Before it was slain, the fiend split the carriage to splinters. Many were injured. From the wreckage, one man rose. Old and bound by an enchantment. That was the first time I saw him. The man who stood at the pinnacle of Avalon.
How you've grown, child.
He spoke in the tone of a doting grandfather. Needless to say, we bear no blood relation. Here stood the 13th Persapius. My first impression. A man gone senile, memory lost to the years. Child, what's this old man talking about? If this fool's a great sorcerer, then I'm a damsel in distress.
I was surprised as well.
Came Terwin's voice from behind me.
For this is the true face of Avalon's commander.
He never appeared in public. As a result, precious few knew anything about him. To most, he was more legend than living man. Only his name was known by all.
How you've grown, my little one.
I told him a second time that I was not his grandchild. Was this the luminary guiding Avalon?
No matter. He'll still suffice for a hostage till he coughs up the Ars Magica.
The Ars Magica in Totalis. A grimoire said to hold every spell ever known to man. The knowledge passed from one Persapius to the next.
We have need of a spell to halt time for all the world.
It was then the whistling came. Arrows rained from behind. Avalon's assassins had arrived. Or rather, I had brought them. 'Twas folly to think they wouldn't tail a prime suspect like myself.
Uh-oh, now we gotta face off against Avalon assassins. We're up against Vesh. Whoever the heck that is. We're gonna make quick work of him. As you guys know, as I've said before, the feather combined with a spear is basically the longsword of this game outside of blood spells. There's almost nothing this character's gonna be able to do to me. I'm gonna be invincible. He's gonna get pwned hard. So where is my evasion feathers? I probably already passed it, aggravating some of you. There it is. 7 cast, 17, 21, 50, 80, 21, 17, 40. It doesn't matter. We're gonna have this done so fast. Okay. Now I'll show you why I am so darn cocky. The assassin denounced me as a traitor. Mistakenly, he believed I betrayed them for Grimm. He would not listen to my excuses. Eternal recursion. A prophecy that says that when the world dies, it is born anew. The Grimm followers have come to believe in this endless future. Well, hey, if we try to explain ourselves to this guy and he won't listen, he's got it coming. Does he have any fun dialogue?
This assassin must have been tailing.
I will spill your guts, you traitor!
He looks like one of those like generic wrestlers they bring onto like the WWF or whatever, like when they just need somebody to beat up on. I'm sure Terrorwing can handle him, but it's over. Lock on. Pew.
Of course they'd be suspicious of you. I knew you'd been in contact with Grimm. But now you've finally shown your true colors. You've so much as harmed ahead. Avalon will crush you. It'll be a massacre.
Me and Terrorwing make a good team. Unscathed quest. He didn't even touch me. Ha ha ha. Was it just holding his arm? Kill him. Kill him. Vesh. Squash you like an apple. Ooh, we got the gold platform. This is perfect. As you know, I love this platform. This does 12 casts and lasts for a minute and a half. That's great.
Gravely injured, the assassin made his plea. They had read and were offering an exchange. I failed to stifle a groan. For she must have been taken, and just after we parted, by the man sent to shadow me, no less. The members of Grimm deliberated.
We have ample store of apple shades already.
Having persuaded the others, Terwin spoke for the Order.
You. Tell them they will have no accord.
The assassin left, leaving a trail of blood behind him. Red was to be left to her fate then.
Our goal is greater than any one of us. The eternal recursion must stop.
Terwin spoke these words to her shaken comrades. Well, so be it. The task falls to me. I'll have to save Semilia myself, poor forgotten creature. And fair enough, I'm responsible in part for her capture. Can't let the girl die before I pay her back. She'd haunt me. The Order of Grimm seeks to prevent the prophecy of eternal recursion. And Red Hood may get caught in the middle. Our author is planning to challenge the Order of Grimm. I clenched my fists, determined. Terwin must have noticed and turned her shut-eyed stare on me.
Her stories painted you as cleverer than that.
Red was to be executed. I was still suspected by Avalon. Only one solution could solve both problems. Steal back Persepius.
You're a strange one, eh?
I had felt no presence there. By the time I had noticed him, he stood at my side. Close your eyes, he said, and the ground began to shake. A sudden gale blew.
You thought me a doddering old man too, did you?
I opened my eyes to unfamiliar surroundings. Terwin and the Order were nowhere in sight. What had happened?
I've a good enough grasp of that lot now. No sense in lingering.
The wily old goat. Not one of them had seen through his act. He had been able to escape from the very start. In retrospect, the notion that Avalon's head would be so easily taken was preposterous.
We'd best be off, eh? Your friend will be waiting for us.
I made for Avalon's fortress as fast as I was able. The hours till Red's execution were ticking away.
Nice. So we escaped. The old man is actually super smart. Got us out so we can go and save Red. I love the chemistry between the author and Red. I think they're flirtatious, they're funny, but there's a deep caring that goes beyond all of it, because I think they're both kind of outcasts. So we're going up against the awesome Chimera. So, why don't we read up about Chimera? The man's dream was to gain glory and renown as a warrior. With his firm determination and stoicism, he had never given in to any temptation. With a single-minded dedication to self-improvement, he had already gained a reputation. Much was expected of his future, and he was on the verge of truly making his mark on history. However, the man's body was broken in a tragic accident, and he was no longer able to fight. He had suffered a grave injury to his leg, and it had left him lame. He laid down his sword. Though it was true that he did this with some regret, he could accept that it was because of his injury that he must do so. Most of all, his dream had not yet died. For the man had a son, and it was for the sake of his son and the man could come to arms with terms with sheathing his sword for good. Whenever he saw his son, he would always think, "That's my boy, that's my flesh and blood." The son's physical bearing and development said it all. He had the talent to become a warrior. The man decided to entrust his dreams to his son, who still had a bright future ahead of him. The son understood his father's feelings. He was acutely aware of his father's frustration. It was his fault that his father had been injured. His father had thrown himself under the wheels of a carriage to save him from being run over. The son felt as though a great thorn had been driven into his heart with his father's injury. Trying to dig out this thorn, the son decided he must see out his father's dream no matter the price. The son was still too young to know what this feeling was. It was the wish to atone. Though still a child, he had a deep sympathy for his father. He was a child who understood pain. Normally such empathy would be praised, but for a warrior, it could be his downfall. He was so kind, he couldn't even kill a fly. How could someone who would pity even an insect even become a warrior? Humanity is the first thing a soldier should discard on the battlefield. The boy's father decided that in order to trade his son, he must be cruel in order to be kind. He deliberately treated him strictly. He gave up on acting as a father to become the boy's master in the art of combat instead. He gave his son a trial to give him the mental preparation to take out life. He brought out one of the goats they kept and ordered his son to kill it. The son didn't want to, but his father shouted at him mercilessly, "You're not coming back until you kill the goat." Going along with the father's demands, the son killed the living creature for the first time in his life. He snapped the goat's neck. He could never forget the sound of the bone breaking or the goat's final cry. Horrified, he threw up repeatedly. Feeling somewhat pleased, the father welcomed his son back into the house. Then, using a horn from the dead goat, he crafted a spear. The son didn't want it. It was only a reminder the moment he killed the goat. That was the father's purpose. He wanted his son to get used to that stench of death. He wanted it to become familiar to the boy. The next thing his father prepared was a snake. Unlike the gentle goat, it was venomous. The boy would suffer greatly if he were bitten, but the father would not relent. He would not allow his son to go back into the house until he had killed the snake. The boy stamped the snake's head in. The vile sensation beneath his foot crawled up his body. The boy knew what he had done without even lifting his foot. He felt how the contents of the snake's head were dashed across the ground and how it had lost its shape. He threw up again, just as he did when he killed the goat. The boy brought home the remains of the snake, and his father used them to make a shield. Whenever the boy looked at the shield, he remembered the sensation of death he had felt underfoot. His father was pleased with his son's progress. He supposed that he would now have a more concrete idea of death. He decided to give his son an even greater trial. He went so far as to borrow money and have a wild beast brought in from a foreign land. A lion. The boy trembled at the lion's roar. Of course the boy feared the sharp teeth and claws of the lion, but there was something else that struck him, a terror even more chilling. The thing that terrified him the most was not the lion, but the mind of his father, the mentality that would subject him to such danger. Still, the boy was prepared for this. Even if his father had lost his mind, it was the boy's fault for causing his father's injury and ruining his life. Perhaps he had destroyed his father's soul along with his dreams. The boy scrapped together all of his courage. He would do anything for his father. The way he took up the sword for the sake of his fellow man proved that he had never been a born warrior. Everything about the boy's attitude spoke to consideration for others. Such empathy was a double-edged sword for a warrior. The act of killing another person would wound his own delicate heart in turn. Yet still the boy fought the beast, thinking only of pleasing his father. Through this vicious battle to the death, he triumphed. The boy stood dumbstruck, covered in blood, holding the head of the lion. His father was convinced the boy would do well. Pleased, the father took the body of the lion and used it to craft armor for his son. He decided at time it was last for the final trial, actual combat. He would test whether his son was ready to take that final step over to the lion. "It's time you learned to kill a man," the father said with a weak grin. "You could start by killing me." The boy still speechless, the father continued. Quitting the battlefield robbed him of the reason to live, he said. The battle would nourish his son, who would carry on his dream, he said. He told his son that this was his life's ambition. The boy refused, saying that he absolutely could not do it. He threw his weapon to the ground, and as he did so, the father struck him hard. Through bitter tears, the boy cried out that he could not do it, but his father would not listen. The boy's father did whatever he could to make his son pick up the weapon, but the boy's hand remained limp. Until the very end, he had no mercy. He saw his son as a replacement for himself. At some point, he had to come to no longer distinguish between himself and his son's life had become a mere extension of his dream. He forced his son to hold the weapon by stitching it to his hand, bellowing at the sobbing boy. "You must think of yourself as a weapon. You are a tool for killing. That's all you are." As he shouted this, tears streamed down the man's own cheeks. The man continued to scream at the boy. "A warrior has no need for sympathy. I was a warrior once. I should know. If it weren't for sympathy, then maybe I wouldn't have saved your sorry life that day." He whispered, "If only I could have shed my kindness as a father, then I could have lived once as a warrior." The boy was stunned by his father's confession. He'd had an inkling, of course. He suspected his father had regretted saving his life. The boy's father screamed again, screamed for the boy to kill him. The compassion that made him shield his son had dashed his dreams of becoming a great warrior. He didn't want his son to fall into the same rut. No matter how the boy resisted, he could not overcome his father's determination. Even at this point, his father was judging him to see if he would become a warrior fit to carry his dream. It was all too bitter that having come this far for his father's sake, the boy would now only pick up his torch by killing him. At that moment, a strange apparition appeared before the boy. He looked up and saw a white chalice floating in the air before him. It spoke directly in his mind. "I can grant that wish if you make the sacrifice." The boy screamed out in his mind. "I want to give my father what he wants. I want him to be the one to carry on his dream, even if it means I become a heartless murderer. Even if it means murdering my father, just as he wishes me to." The son paid with his emotions. He threw away his feelings for his father, which to that point had filled his thoughts. Ironically, it was just what his father wanted. A heartless warrior. A simple tool for battle, just as a sword or a spear has no heart. A tool whose only function is to kill. A warrior who has lost all emotion sees everything as an enemy. Weapons and armor cannot distinguish between friend and foe. The son did not hesitate. Perhaps he didn't even recognize the man as his father anymore. He made quick work of him. In the end, a small twinge of pain shot through the son's chest, but he no longer knew what it was. Perhaps with that, the son had become the warrior his father wanted, and yet perhaps the result was more than what his father had wished for. Having lost his humanity utterly, the son could not even remember his father. Was it possible that a man felt regret at never being called father again? Had he truly realized the tragedy of losing the bond between father and son? There was no way for the father to answer the question. He lay dead, killed by his own son. All that remains now is an instrument of war created together by father and son. Okay, well, we had a very nice story before, now we have a very grim story now, pun intended. So let's arm ourselves. I think we're pretty good. Let's do this. Persepius wanted to know the Grim cult's ultimate goal. They needed a certain spell to halt the eternal recursion, and that is why they search for the Ars Magica. The very thought chills me to the bone. But if we are late, Similia will be executed. Monsters have appeared on the road before us. We're on the monster that's running down. I love this map. It's a cool looking one. Okay.
Hurry. You don't want your friend to get executed, do you?
Oh, we're with Persepius now. Badass. That's great. We're up against the Chimera, so we're going to go ahead and buff ourselves. I'm going to try my hardest to get all the breakpoints on this one, because I really do want it. I don't imagine he's going to be very tall, so I'm not going to bring out the platform just yet. I think I'm going to start with... we'll see where the breakpoints are first. It's probably the shield and the spear. Snake shield and the goat spear. I love the interpretation of this classic monster and just the reasoning that they gave him. It's really neat. So let's do some dashing with the spear, shall we? Let's go pick up that other apple. That'll also heal us as well, which is great. This is why I always do it at the very beginning. Because usually the monsters don't go back there. Usually. Okay, we gotta get that horn. The goat. Okay, goat done. Time for the snake. Come back here. And that shield does not want to break, huh? There it is. And now we just need the head. Let's get up. So I'm going to try using some charge attacks here at the head. See if this works. No, I don't think that's hitting the broken... Oh, here we go. No, get down. Oh man, I'm just wasting my opportunities here. There we go. We got all the parts. That's great. Fearless warrior. Okay, now let's just spam kill him. With the feather. I just need to lock on him. There we go. Good deal, huh? Sorry, Chimera. Is that the sun? Poor kid. His father was a nutty. I can forgive that. Oh, but I'm with the Avalon dude, and the Avalon dude probably wants to kill him. Should I, like, nah, you know what? I'm going to teach Persepius that I'm not his... I may belong to Avalon, but I'm not his pawn. If I say we're saving a life, we're saving a life. Do you realize who I am? Yes, and that's exactly why I chose to save him. Chumpy old man. But you, God, your armor looks so cool. I think he'll appreciate the fact that we have such free will. I can't imagine he likes sheep. Meh. Lots of new spells. Conjure a massive wooden fist. It's a stone fist. And then for the break parts, we've got the regular break, which is a special one, which will allow us to summon the actual Chimera itself, the lion. And the other one is a weapon, which is like a melee weapon for Grim. It's going to awaken the magic of the Chimera to pound foes while magically armored. So I imagine that will give you the armor of the Chimera, which is cool. I like it. If I was a streamer, I'd put it all on and I would show you in the next hunt, but I suck at streaming and I'm not even into Let's Plays. Like, this isn't my thing, so you'll have to forgive me and my attempt and just bear with it. Ooh! We unlocked Sentinel Sigil 4. Defense amp, 50% defense amp, 40%. Hello! Let's go put that on. We saved Leon. And Persepius can now be an NPC on open packs. Great.
That grim lot prattled on about averting the world's end.
He laughed that he wouldn't give the Ars Magica to a dubious cult, even if it were possible. But the book doesn't exist in the first place, he explained. Not as such.
It's all up in the old noggin.
The flesh, he claimed, is but a vessel for carrying knowledge on to the next generation. When accepting the mantle, each new Persapius sacrifices his predecessor. In so doing, he claims all of the prior generation's memory. The sum of that knowledge is the Ars Magica in totalis. But such a colossal store taxes the human memory past its limits. The price is his inability to learn without forgetting something else.
For you, I'll make an exception. Your name, please?
He joked that I should hope he didn't forget anything important in exchange. It had been hours since I'd seen him back to Avalon's stronghold. On his command, Semelia had been safely released. I was tasked with her escort back to Grimm. I told her we were even now.
Not by a long shot, Spot.
She replied. Just the same, a smile of relief played on her face.
Well, I wish I knew what to say at times like these.
She'd never had cause to thank anyone before, she mumbled.
Come to think of it, I still don't know your name.
I gave my reply, and she stopped, cold. The smile on her face disappeared completely. You would think I just heralded the end of the world. Soon, the author will be told of the grim prophecy in detail. The prophecy never should have come to light. That's why this memory was buried. And don't forget, this memory took place before the encounter with Magusar. Red Hood offers a new perspective on this entire tale. Go ahead and read it, but don't let it confuse you.
Okay, I hope your brains are ready to be frozen. This is going to start us out on the great story. So this actually might be a good place to end after this one, just so you have time to digest it before we move on. But we're going on to Reflection, the Eternal Recursion.
It was the first I'd heard of Grimm's prophecy in detail. I was left in disbelief. How was my fate related to talk of the world's end? It was some days later I first met Magusar and we began our travels. It was just as Grimm had foreseen. Throughout my journey I received periodic correspondence from Red. One letter in particular stands out in my memory.
Have you ever paused to wonder how many times we lived out these lives before? Eternal recursion. The world's come and gone and been made new again. The fact that you exist at all proves his every word beyond doubt. And if he foresaw your coming, then surely. But even before I learnt of this cycle that binds us, I knew this world is, at its core, unfair. I was born to the Red Hood line, a bloodline cursed, even by our fellow druids. Heretical even to heretics. I was always alone. There were times I cursed my fate, my blood. But I would echo these words within my heart, and courage would always come. This is where my story begins. I know you. I know your name well. There is none more sacred to the members of the Order. I expect you find it hard to believe that only your words can echo on beyond the world's destruction and rebirth. But they did. The words that gave me strength were yours. This is where your story begins, you said. I was so happy. Happy to meet the one who had given me those words of salvation. Geoffrey Leborn. If the words you left hold true, you will learn better than any just how cruel this world can be. But please, remember this. The words you left behind hold the seeds of hope. I pray that you will offer them to the next world in turn. Even if the world comes crumbling down around you, remember this.
My scattered memories are coming back. The world repeats itself. Most of the events written upon my pages have recurred countless times. Even our imprisonment has played out before, time after countless time. At some point there was a deviation, an event that had not transpired before. That was Grimm's prophecy, and it was passed on to the next world. After countless iterations of reality, it was the one historical fluctuation. The encounter with Red Hood was special, a tale that should never have existed. It was an event that occurred even before the meeting with Magusar. Red Hood told the journal's writer of his fate, according to Grimm's prophecy. Later, the writer of the journal and Magusar would meet. Their journey was nearly the same as it had played out countless times before. Just like Grimm's prophecy, exactly as Red Hood had described. Only with one notable difference. On the journey, the journal's author began to suspect an eternal recursion. Near the end of the world, Magusar went berserk, and the author was convinced. And once you are aware of the charade, the world can never be the same again. Reality continued to recur, but things were gradually rewritten. There are multiple conclusions to the journey with Magusa. Next, we will see a deviation from this recurrence. A unique tale, the first ever.
I won't even begin to jump in and try to start explaining everything because one, we haven't gotten through it all, and two, there is some interesting interpretations that you may want to enjoy coming up with. So what has unlocked? We'll at least cover that. So in Avalon, we have unlocked Impure Blood, which is the tale of Terroria, who I adore. She's great. And we have still in Sanctuarium, we have not done the Case of Narcissism, which is Calixto. So I think those two are going to make a good, fine next episode before we continue on. And we actually still have a Lost Voice as well, which is Kalim. Or Callum, I can't remember. That's also a very good story. I might just do one long episode where I do Kalem, the Narcissism, and then what's her name? Terroria? I'm not sure. It depends on how many new stories there are for monsters to read. There's probably a bunch. But we have those three to enjoy. Packs, obviously, we have a bunch. Our next one will unlock at Int 28. Which will be the level 10 quests, and then we'll start reaching these ones, which is the Black Records. These things are considered sort of like the G rank. These are all going to be 11 star and above. So that starts at Int 34, goes all the way up to Int 50. Again, the way they paced it out is really good, because your intelligence basically progresses around the same. Like, they know critical path-wise approximately how many unique spells you would have gathered at this point, so it's a super smart way to balance a game, because those who do a little bit of grinding or do the packs against monsters they never fought will get more intelligence, which will unlock spells a little bit early to give them an advantage, just in the same way that, like, leveling up over and over again will give you an advantage in the next area, but you're doing unique stuff. You're not forced to just repeat the same thing. Or you could just do critical path and be fine. So I love this game design. So we also unlocked Revised, The Memories Remain. So this is a different version of the entire final chapters of our journey with Magusar. If we go into Destiny Deferred, this is a 7-star against Incubus. We'll be starting out. So I think before we start getting into that, it'll be a good idea to do the Sorceress Deeds. Anyways, I think 1 hour is a pretty good time for an episode, plus I want to do these three together. So I think I'm going to end it there. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to explain or go through before we do anything else. Probably not. I think this is a great place to end it. So hopefully you guys are enjoying this new setup of the story and where it's going to be going. It gets really interesting. And until next time, happy hunting.